Hey there YouTube lovers, my name is BB8 and today I am going to review Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. This might actually come to as a surprise for many people, but I did not play Donkey Kong Country Returns as a kid on either the Wii or the 3DS. In fact, this was one of two platforms from the Wii I waited my whole childhood to play, the other being Kirby's Epic Yarn, of course. And now, with Donkey Kong Country Returns finally making its way onto the Nintendo Switch in the form of an HD remaster, I finally gave it a play after 15 years and found myself having a blast with it. But before we get into the review itself, I just want to give a brief recap on my opinion on the other Nintendo Switch Donkey Kong release, being the re-release of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze from the Wii U. Now, Tropical Freeze was a game I had a blast with, like Returns. I didn't play it on the Wii U initially, but the Nintendo Switch port actually gave me a chance to play Tropical Freeze, and I could say it's up there as one of my favorite Donkey Kong games. The gameplay is really strong thanks to its implemented level design and platforming. The boss design was really good thanks to bosses like Fugu, and the game was just overall a fun time. So now that I've played Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, since I never got to play the original Returns when it first came out, but was it worth 15 years to see if this game starring the King of Swing himself was worth it? Or can we just say that this game is a bad banana? You're about to find out. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? For the gameplay, the platforming in Donkey Kong Country Returns is well designed, staying true to each of the 8 worlds you can go through within Donkey Kong Country Returns, plus the bonus 9th world if you collect all the KONG letters within the game. The levels in the game are well designed, throwing a variety of mechanics, ensuring that the gameplay doesn't feel boring into the mix. Some tougher levels can feel like Cuphead difficulty-wise, requiring players to be careful when they reach their goal. While I enjoy some challenge in my games, I can see how some of the levels in Donkey Kong Country Returns may frustrate others, especially for players who are not used to the type of gameplay style that Donkey Kong Country goes for, which I can say for now, for those who played the original Donkey Kong Country on the SNES, Returns is more challenging, especially since the platforming is more complex. The boss fights were another area in the game that I enjoyed, and while each of the bosses do have 3 phases in them, like in the Mario games, some of the bosses in the game do have their own unique way of being defeated. But I do feel like the final boss was too short compared to Bowser's boss fight in New Super Mario Bros. Wii. I do think Tropical Freeze did do the boss fights a bit better, as they felt more dynamic in ways they can be defeated, especially with Fugu's boss taking place entirely underwater. The one thing that does feel weird about Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is that Funky Mode, introduced in the 2018 version of Tropical Freeze, wasn't present this time, which I feel like it should have been because it adds more replayability into the mix. And despite not playing the Wii or 3DS version of Returns to make the comparison, but I have heard that Returns HD didn't have that much new stuff included in the mix, which is a shame considering that we did wait from June till January for this port to come, and I feel like I'm in the same position as Luigi's Mansion 2 HD with the Donkey Kong Country Returns remaster, which is a shame because I do think a new story mode taking place at the same time as Returns, but through the perspective of a different character like Dixie Kong or King K. Rool, for example, could have added more to the remaster. For the graphics and the performance, visually, Donkey Kong Country Returns does hold up slightly well, even if there are some areas within the HD version that feel slightly dated in comparison to the Wii original. The game keeps its vibrant art style and environments from the original, which still look great in HD, but a few noticeable areas within the visuals I should bring up, such as that one level within the cliffs, and this bush in the background does appear to be poorly upscaled. It's hard to tell if this is a Persona 3 portable situation where AI upscaling was used here, which couldn't have been the case. If HD used Donkey Kong Country Returns in 3D as the base, AI upscaling couldn't have been used for the backgrounds. And considering that all the other backgrounds within the game, apart from this one in the cliffs, it's unlikely that AI upscaling would have been used here. Another noticeable downgrade to talk about here is the removal of certain effects, such as the sunsets and the water ripple effects from the Wii version. And while this may sound disappointing on pen and paper, these changes don't ruin the experience for me. Another thing I wanted to address is the reuse of pre-rendered cutscenes from the Wii version, instead of reanimating them to match the visuals of Tropical Freeze. In my opinion, the reuse of cutscenes from the original does feel a bit lazy, but at the end of the day, this is a Wii game. The pre-rendered cutscenes still serve their purpose, even though the visuals do look slightly dated. For the story, like most Donkey Kong Country games, the story is simple, but it still works. With the evil Tiki Tak tribe hypnotizing the animals throughout Donkey Kong Island, stealing Donkey Kong's bananas, and it's up to Donkey Kong and Dizzy Kong. Unfortunately, I am trying to avoid saying the thing because of like real world events, but that doesn't matter right now. But it's up to Donkey Kong and Dizzy Kong to get the bananas back, and the story is nothing groundbreaking, but this still serves as a fun motivation for the story, and it is enough for the game to function. While the Tiki Tak tribe do function quite well as an antagonistic group of characters, I feel like they don't have the same level of personality or quirkiness as the Kremlings or King K. Rool from the older Donkey Kong Country games, terminating at the GameCube era. And while Tropical Freeze did expand the storytelling area with more expressive cutscenes and better character interactions, but Donkey Kong Country Returns keeps things simple and lets the gameplay do its thing. Donkey Kong Country Returns is an excellent platformer that still holds up well after 15 years, and while the HD remaster doesn't do anything spectacular to improve on the experience, it still brings one of the best platformers from the Wii era to modern audiences, making the game more accessible with the excellent platforming, great level design, and a satisfying level of challenge. Donkey Kong Country Returns is still one that's worth playing in 2025. And with that being said, people who have already played it on the Wii or 3DS may not find a reason to revisit the game, especially with the lack of content, but it is essentially the same game as the Wii, but with the 3DS levels added in. If you missed out on Donkey Kong Country Returns when it first released, or the 3D version, this remaster is still a great way to experience the Wii classic, and that is why I give Donkey Kong Country Returns HD the collector perk with the certified bronze accolade. And overall, I give Donkey Kong Country Returns HD an 8 out of 10. If I had to give a score for the original Returns as well, despite not playing the original, I would probably give it a 9. Despite the lack of additional content, I still had a great time with Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. The core gameplay is still strong, and the transition to the Nintendo Switch was still handled fairly, even if the upgrade wasn't massive. But if you missed out on Returns the first time around, the HD remaster is still your chance to play it, and it is definitely worth the pickup, but only for those who didn't play the original. So guys, what did you think of my review of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD? Next in BB8's House Reviews, we are reviewing Super Mario Party Jamboree. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video and turn your notification bell on so you don't miss another video like this one in the future. And I will see you all in a future video. BB8 out.